Millions are at stake. A pivotal time in Abu Dhabi for a career. Alex Aya's phone started calling all of a sudden. Not from friends, but from sponsors who are prepared to permanently alter her life. The subsequent explosion was unanticipated. Everything changed overnight after only one game and one performance. This is the tale of how a Filipino tennis player transformed a single competition into a multimillion-dollar sensation, which is why the biggest companies in the world are currently vying for her signature. This was not where Alex Eala was supposed to be. Well, not just yet. The Filipino tennis sensation has already forged a career that most players can only imagine at the age of 20. Grand Slam Junior Champion. The first Filipino to take home a WTA Singles Championship. Every time she took the court, the pride of an entire country rested on her shoulders. However, the professional circuit is a very different animal. It's where promise meets pressure, where potential meets reality, and where careers either gradually sink into obscurity or are propelled into stardom. Eala had long been seen as the next big thing in Philippine tennis, the one who would eventually make a name for himself on the international scene. However, futures don't cover expenses. Doubters are not silenced by futures. And futures most definitely don't draw the kind of sponsorship funding that turns an athlete from a rival into a brand. Abu Dhabi was important because of this. The United Arab Emirates WTA 500 tournament was more than just a scheduled event. For Eala, it was a sign of approval, an opportunity to demonstrate her status as a member of the elite, and a stage so bright that everyone couldn't turn away. Although she had previously participated in larger competitions with more difficult opponents and higher stakes, there was something about Abu Dhabi that felt different. Perhaps it was the preparation, the timing, or just the right time when an athlete's readiness and opportunity coincide perfectly. Eala brought more than just her racket bag with her when she came in Abu Dhabi. She represented more than 110 million Filipinos. In a nation where basketball and boxing had long eclipsed tennis, she carried the burden of being a trailblazer. She carried the expectations of sponsors who had put money into her potential but were awaiting evidence to support their beliefs. She might have been crushed by the pressure. It does for a lot of young athletes. However, this is what sets excellent players apart from mediocre ones. When the spotlight is at its brightest, great players flourish. They grow into the moment rather than retreat from it. As the competition got underway, it became evident that Alex Eala wasn't just prepared for Abu Dhabi, she was going to win it. Tennis insiders were keeping a close eye on her in the days preceding her debut match. Journalists who had tracked her from the Rafael Nadal Academy to the professional circuit, coaches who had trained her, and agents who saw that a single breakout performance could make all the difference. The murmurs were positive yet cautious. She could create a stir here if she plays her part and maintains her composure. Nobody could have guessed how loud that roar would get. Over the previous year, Eala's game has changed dramatically. Her forehand, which has always been a weapon, had become even faster and more accurate. She was able to retrieve balls that would have been winners against her younger self because of her improved movement on the court. Above all, though, she had improved her mental game. A focused, strategic competitor who recognized that tennis at the top level is as much a psychological struggle as a physical one had taken the place of the adolescent player who occasionally allowed her emotions to control her performance. Something snapped when she worked through her pre-match preparations and hit with her team on the Abu Dhabi practice courts. The circumstances seemed ideal. It felt like everything was ready. And everything came together for the first time in months, if not years. This wasn't your typical competition. Alex Eala has spent her entire life preparing for this moment. And whether she realized it at the time or not, the world was going to pay attention in ways that would fundamentally alter everything. Could she, however, bear what lay ahead? The tone was established by the first game. Eala entered the court with a kind of subdued assurance that unnerves opponents. Just pure, concentrated intensity, no theatrics, no needless emotion. The experience edge went to her opponent, a seasoned WTA veteran who was ranked in the top 50. She had previously participated in major contests. She has survived storms caused by young upstarts attempting to establish themselves. On paper, the veteran should have won easily. Greatness in the making is not taken into account on paper. Eala played with an unprecedented level of freedom from the first game. Her serve, which was usually dependable but not overwhelming, now had more bite. Her already powerful ground strokes were landing inches from the lines with a consistency that seemed nearly unattainable. She moved in a way that gave the impression that she had considered every angle and shot that could be made and had prepared a response for each one. The veteran made every effort to disrupt Eala's rhythm, cut, drop shots to test her court coverage, and strong top spin to force her behind the baseline. Nothing was effective. There was a counter-strategy for every tactic. All of the weapons were neutralized. As the match went on, you could see her opponent's realization beginning to show on their face. The player she had scouted was not this one. The young prospect who was still figuring things out wasn't this. This individual was functioning at an entirely different level. Eala won the first set with a score of 63, which was strong but not overpowering enough to make a statement without showing all of her cards. A masterclass 61 was the second set. Brutal, clinical, and lovely. Eala hit the game-winning cross-court forehand that left a mark on the court and flawlessly painted the line. More significantly, phones began to emerge as the mob exploded. Social media started to take off. Videos of her best shots began to go viral. Additionally, marketing executives began to pay close attention in boardrooms throughout Asia and beyond. However, a tournament is not created by a single match, and a career is not created by a single tournament. Eala faced an even more formidable opponent in the second round. A player in the top 30 who is renowned for her mental toughness and consistency. The type of player who never gives you anything for free, grinds you down, and requires you to earn every point. The test was this. The majority of young players struggle at this point. When reality sets in after a significant first-round victory, the excitement fades. Eala passed with honors. It took almost 2.5 hours of intense, excellent tennis over the course of 3 sets. There were times when it appeared that the veteran's experience would win out. In certain games, Eala's youth was evident, frustration seeped in, and doubt threatened to take hold. However, she always managed to find a solution. A huge serve to save breakpoint. A perfectly executed approach shot to seize momentum. A defensive lob that turned defense into offense in the span of a single stroke. When she closed out the final point, collapsing to the court in exhaustion and relief, something shifted. This wasn't just a good run anymore. This was a statement. This was Eala announcing to the tennis world that she had arrived and she wasn't going anywhere. The tournament continued, and so did Eala's brilliance. Each match brought new challenges. Each opponent brought different weapons. And each time Eala found a way to rise to the occasion. Her forehand was demolishing opponents. Her court positioning was impeccable. Her shot selection showed wisdom beyond her years. By the time she reached the semifinals, the tennis world had taken full notice. Commentators were running out of superlatives. Former champions were tweeting their admiration, and most importantly, her name was trending not just in the Philippines, but globally. The semifinals match was broadcast during prime time in Manila. Offices stopped, schools paused, entire communities gathered around screens to watch their champion compete on one of tennis's biggest stages. And Eala didn't disappoint. She played with the poise of a veteran and the fearlessness of youth. A combination that proved unstoppable. When she closed out the match, securing her spot in the finals, the Philippines exploded with pride. But the celebration was just beginning, because what happened next would transcend tennis entirely, and the whole world was watching. The final was scheduled for Sunday afternoon, but by Monday morning, Eala's life had already changed forever. Her performance in Abu Dhabi had been electric. Win or lose the final, she had already exceeded every expectation. She had defeated higher-ranked opponents. She had showcased maturity and skill that belied her age. She had given the Philippine tennis community its most significant moment in decades. But what happened in the 48 hours after the tournament concluded went beyond anything anyone could have predicted. It started with social media. Within hours of her semi-final victory, Eala's Instagram followers jumped by over 200,000. Her highlight reels were being shared across platforms, accumulating millions of views. Filipino celebrities were posting about her. International tennis stars were acknowledging her performance. The #Alexa was trending in multiple countries simultaneously. But social media buzz is one thing. What occurred next was altogether different. Eala's management team started receiving calls, Not the normal questions about appearance fees or exhibition matches. These were serious conversations from significant businesses, worldwide sportswear firms, international beverage brands, IT companies seeking for Asian-Pacific ambassadors, Philippine enterprises seeing an opportunity to align with national pride. The interest wasn't simply strong, it was unprecedented for a Filipino tennis player. One sports marketing executive later called it as a perfect storm of talent, timing, and cultural moment. Eala wasn't just a good player having a fantastic tournament. She represented something bigger. She was a young, articulate, accomplished athlete who resonated with different groups. She appealed to tennis fans clearly, but also to the broader Filipino diaspora, to young women seeking role models, to marketers wanting to reach the Southeast Asian market. Her team had to set up additional meetings solely to handle the rush of sponsor interest. Brands that had earlier indicated minor interest were now pushing for immediate deals. Companies who had never considered tennis sponsorship were suddenly examining opportunities. The amount and urgency of the queries was astonishing. In the Philippines, the backlash was even more fierce. Newspapers published feature articles. Interviews are sought in the morning. Congratulations were tweeted by politicians. Increased financing for tennis development initiatives was announced by the Philippine Sports Commission. Eala was no longer just an athlete. She was now an icon of the country. Her current sponsors were just as excited. All of a sudden, the companies that had helped her along the way saw enormous returns on their investment. Their mentions on social media increased dramatically. Across all groups, their affiliation with Eala resulted in favorable brand sentiment. Within 72 hours of her performance in Abu Dhabi, one sponsor reported a 35% boost in engagement. Most importantly, though, young Filipino girls began picking up tennis rackets, signing up for lessons, and asking their parents about training regimens. The AY effect was sparking a grassroots movement and motivating the following generation in ways that went beyond personal success. Eala herself managed the unexpected attention with impressive poise.